Hello to my viewing and listening audience. Welcome back to Redirecting. I'm going to be showing a clip of a video that I did some time ago, but I wanted to bring this back to the surface because we are constantly seeing these types of situations before us where we don't have an understanding of how we are to deal with those who have troubled us, those who have persecuted us in the land of our captivity. The video is talking about a so-called black man, in which the clip of this man is in the video too. It's something that actually happened in the place where I used to live in the state of Michigan. Not in the city, but the state of Michigan. And I was very disturbed back then when I first saw the story. And I'm still disturbed by the story because our people have this same mindset. We have this mindset that at all costs we are to forgive these people that continue to do horrendous things to us and our people. And there's this expectation that we are to forgive. That's because many of us lack understanding. When the scripture talks about loving your enemies and forgiving your enemies, we lack understanding on that whole thing. If you look at biblical history, the enemies it was talking about was among your own people. And as I have stated in many of my broadcasts, back then we had many enemies. There was never an instruction for the Israelites to love the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Amalekites, the Egyptians. There was never a commandment for us to love these people, the ones who were attacking us. Okay? Did the Most High ever tell the children of Israel to love Pharaoh? Now, don't get it twisted with the scripture that talks about dealing with them when they were dealing with us right. Okay? You have to keep things in context. It doesn't mean when somebody is slaughtering you that you're supposed to declare love and forgiveness for them at that moment. If someone is dealing with you righteously and fairly, but they cease to do that, that love is not to carry over into the time when they decided to deal with you treacherously. We got to get things right in our minds and stop twisting scripture to justify loving people who hate us. Okay? It is that mindset that keeps us down, in my opinion. It keeps us to the point where we can't even think right or clear or rationally. And so I'm going to go ahead and roll this clip. Some of you may have already seen it, but because I did it years ago and I have a whole lot of new subscribers that may not actually go into the archives, I think it's a good idea to bring some of those things back up because we need to revisit certain things so that our people's minds are fresh on how we are supposed to deal with those who have rule over us. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll the clip. Shalom, family. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the effects of 400 years of slavery on the so-called black man and woman. This is what has become of us. What you see today, all of the things that you see going on in our communities, the way we deal with each other, the way we deal with other people, this is the effects of 400 years of slavery, mind rape, and body rape. All of this torture and all of this subjugation, this oppression, this hatred, the beatings, the killings, the rape, 400 years of slavery has brought us to the place that we are today, to where we cannot function as normal human beings in many cases. I'm about to show you a clip of a brother who lives in Benton Harbor, Michigan, where he was accused of a crime that he did not commit by a police officer who was sworn to uphold the laws and to protect citizens, right? Well, I'm going to show you in this clip what this police officer did to this man and how he responded to this police officer. I'm going to go ahead and roll the clip, and I'll come back and share with you my thoughts on what has happened in this brother's life.
We end this week with a lesson in forgiveness from Steve Hartman on the road.
It all went down on this block in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Back in '05, Jamel McGee says he was minding his own business when a police officer accused him of and arrested him for dealing drugs.
You saying the officer made it up?
Yeah, it was all made up.
Of course, a lot of accused men make that claim, but not many arresting officers agree.
So you phonied the report?
I did. I falsified the report.
This is former Benton Harbor police officer Andrew Collins.
Were you just trying to chalk up an arrest?
Basically, the start of that day, I was going to make sure I had another drug arrest.
And in the end, you put an innocent guy in jail?
Correct. Yeah.
You lost everything.
I lost everything. My only goal was to seek him when I got home and to hurt him.
Really?
That was my goal.
Eventually, that crooked cop was caught, served 1.5 years for falsifying many police reports, planting drugs, and stealing.
Of course, Jamel was exonerated, but he still spent 4 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Today, both men are back here in Benton Harbor, which is a small town. Maybe a little too small.
Hey guys, thank you.
Last year, by sheer coincidence, they both ended up at Mosaic, a faith-based employment agency where they now work side by side in the same cafe.
Oh, excuse me.
And it was in these cramped quarters that the bad cop and the wrongfully accused had no choice but to have it out.
And I said, honestly, I have no explanation. All I can do is say I'm sorry.
And Jamel says that was all it took.
That was pretty much what I needed to hear.
Today, they're not only cordial,
Saturday, we went to the trampoline park.
they're friends.
We talk about life.
Such close friends. Not long ago, Jamel actually told Andrew he loved him.
And I just started weeping because he doesn't owe me that. I don't deserve that,
Did you forgive for his sake or for yours?
No, for our sake. Not just us, for our sake.
Jamel went on to tell me about his Christian faith and his hope for a kinder mankind. He wants to be an example. So now he and Andrew give speeches together about the importance of forgiveness and redemption.
Grab this, we'll set it over there.
And clearly, if these two guys from the coffee shop can set aside their bitter grounds, what's our excuse? Steve Hartman, on the road in Benton Harbor, Michigan.
Okay, so now what you've seen is a man who was literally robbed of 4 years of his life because someone had a quota to meet. Someone was clearly racist. I'm sure many of you are going to say, well, you can't prove that he was racist. Well, why is it that he was targeting so-called black people? See, I'm familiar with some of the dealings in Benton Harbor, Michigan. I'm from Michigan, okay? And there's a process right now going on in Benton Harbor, Michigan of gentrification. This is where the so-called white folks that live in the area, they're starting to say to themselves, well, you know what, why do they need this land? Benton Harbor has something that a lot of areas don't have. It has a beachfront area that's, very beautiful, connected to the water, okay? And so they were like, why do these so-called black people need this? We want this land back, right? Many of them move out of areas when they see a few black people moving and they start to move out. But then when they get out, they decide, you know what, we want back in. Why leave this to them? Same thing in Detroit. The downtown area of Detroit is surrounded by the Detroit River, in which we used to go to Belle Isle Park and, a lot of different things. Hart Plaza is off of the river. And so there were a lot of events in downtown Detroit. I've been told that if I were to go back to Detroit, that I wouldn't even know the downtown area because it's been transformed from black to white. Meaning they've kicked our black behinds out and they have taken over through a process of gentrification. See, white flight sent them out, but when they began to see what they gave up and what they went to, in which they realized the suburbs wasn't all that, they decided they wanted the city back. And so the same thing happened in Benton Harbor. But again, back to this particular case. Now, as you saw, the brother, he even confessed with his own mouth that this man ruined my life. He ruined my life. I mean, he took away 4 years that he'll never be able to get back. all because this man, this police officer, decided to lie and sent him and many other people up the river. And you can take your guesses as to what color these people were. If you want to stay in La La Land and believe that that was the only black and everybody else was white, then so be it. There's nothing that I'm going to say in this video that's going to help you. I will say this much, that many of us have been in the position that that brother is in. None of us are exempt, okay? Now, I know there may be a handful of people that may have grown up in families that knew what was going on for a long time, and so they made sure their children knew what was going on. But all of us didn't grow up in a family like that. And so I grew up with that Christian mindset, thinking that no matter what people did to me, I was supposed to just kiss their behinds and grin and bear it, turn the other cheek, let them get this side, and then flip it back over and let them get that side, and keep on flipping until I ain't got nothing left to flip. You see, I grew up with a mindset like that too, to where I thought forgiveness was the ultimate love and key to harmony and peace with all men. I mean, I grew up with that mentality. I remember when I was a child, I was probably about 12 years old, and we lived in a majority white neighborhood. We were, I think, the third black family that moved on this block, and we had some so-called white friends. And I remember there was this really big Neanderthal-looking white teenager that lived across the street. He was about 15, but he was big like Paul Bunyan. And I remember one time he hit me in my chest so hard. I was this skinny little pigtail wearing black girl, right? But he hit me in my chest so hard that it knocked the wind out of me. And I literally walked home like this, unable to breathe. But because I was a good little Christian, I thought I was supposed to forgive and love him and just put it all behind me. All water under the bridge. He probably didn't mean it. And even if he did, I still love him. I still forgive him. You see the sickness behind that? That was me, okay? So I'm not just talking about the brother here in this video. I'm talking about myself too. I grew up with that mentality. But as I grew older and older, I got rid of that mentality. I began to see that these people didn't like us at a very young age, because I was always going through things like that as a young child. See, many of you grew up in neighborhoods where you never experienced that. So when you hear me talking about things like that, you say to yourself, well, what is she talking about? Those things aren't happening. She's just over-exaggerated. I'm telling you, I can write a book on the things that I have gone through dealing with our oppressors. So nobody can come and tell me that I need to be quiet, because I'm talking about my experiences and what I had to go through dealing with them. You see, I lived in a neighborhood to where these kinds of things were always happening. There was my brother, and he was a skinny little fella too. When he was about 11 or 12 years old, he used to have these little white buddies down the street that he used to play with all the time. They were friends, and we were cordial with their parents as well. You know, it's just the way it was. You know, we were all cordial. Not that we went over for dinner or anything like that. They were cordial because we were the Negroes in the neighborhood, you see. But anyway, my brother, he was very close to the young boys that they had, the young sons. But anyway, something happened, some type of altercation or dispute arose among my brother and his two little so-called friends, right? Now, I'll put it to you this way. One of the boys was a very big, husky little boy. Now, my brother was this skinny little toothpick, okay? What ended up happening is, because of a dispute that arose between the two, one of the boy's dad came out of the house, this grown man, and beat my brother up, okay? And so my stepfather got involved. He said, okay, you're going to put your hands on my stepchild. I'm going to deal with you. Okay, so the police had to be called and everything. You know, some guns were pulled out and all this. I remember this very well, because my mom had to go down the street and kind of like shove my stepfather home, like, come on home, baby. They done called the cops, come on home. Didn't nobody get shot or nothing like that. But the point of the matter is, this grown man beat my brother up. And chances are, okay, we have a wasp out here, so please excuse me if I'm somewhat distracted. But chances are, even though this grown white man beat up my 11, 12-year-old little brother, who's a skinny little fella, the cops no doubt would not have taken that man to jail for injuring a child. They would have exonerated him, you see. But we've been trained as a people to just, oh, just put it all behind you, just forgive, just love. I remember that's exactly how we were back in the day. We were just so forgiving, so loving, such pushovers. And even in today's time, even though me myself has gotten all of that out of my system, pretty much all of it, I'll say a good majority of it is out of my system. I know that there has to be some residue of it there, but as a people, as a whole, you see things like this where this man in this video, not only did he exonerate this man, which means forgive him and just pretend like it never happened, but when he said these words, when the so-called guy said, I'm sorry, he said that's all he needed to hear. That was all? That's all you needed to hear? You just want to hear somebody open their mouth and say they're sorry? You don't even know if they mean it. And then when he opened up his mouth to say he loves him too, I said to myself, what the hell is going on with our people to where this man can ruin your life, ruin your family's life, take huge chunks out of your life, put you in prison and other people in prison, not bat an eye. Do you think this man is really truly sorry? Do you really think he's truly sorry? Many of us are so simple-minded that all he has to do is say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. What I did was wrong. What I did was bad. His action shows that was a deep-seated hatred in him to even be able to do that. I couldn't do that to any human being. I don't care what color they are. But you see how easily he was able to do that to a lot of people. That was why he had to go to jail, because there was so many false reports that they finally said, okay, we got to put this man in jail, because now this so-called cop who's supposed to protect and serve, he is the bad guy now. Now, a lot of people were exonerated and let free, but the fact that their lives were ruined in the first place testifies of the kind of spirit in that white police officer, you see. And so when I see our people, especially our brothers, okay, sometimes I expect a woman to be a little soft, although in a case like this, I'm like, come on now. When I think about Eric Garner's wife, and they asked her, will she forgive the man who killed her husband, she said, hell no. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell y'all something. It is always expected of us to forgive. Notice how they started the story off, an amazing story of forgiveness. How come it's never an amazing story of forgiveness where some so-called black man may have killed a white person's family member, and this white person is saying, you know what, I love him, I forgive him. Or some so-called black person has ruined a white person's life, and that white person is saying, I love him, I forgive him. We are constantly flooded with stories where we are on the giving end of forgiveness and they are on the receiving end of forgiveness. But we don't see nothing wrong with that. We think we're the bigger people. We think we're the better people because of it. Our ancient forefathers didn't even think like that. It had nothing to do with it. Like I said before, when I gave the example of David and Goliath, when I did the Harriet Tubman part. Do you think David fell to his knees to pray for Goliath right before he slew him? You see what I'm trying to say here? Why is it that, I know why, but I'm trying to make a point. Why is it that we feel like we have to forgive these people who are not just giving us minor infractions? They're doing major things. They are ruining whole lives, you see? And we feel that the Father requires us because of some misinterpreted or misunderstood Bible verses. We think that we are required to forgive this kind of nonsense. And these people have been the same way to us for the past 400 or more years. They have been the same way to us. And we think that we are supposed to be the ones always giving out the forgiveness, giving it out. And what do we get in return? More oppression, more hatred, more murder, more killing, more all of this stuff, more oppression. And we think we're so righteous. That ain't nothing but self-righteousness, because the majority of so-called black people don't have that same kind of love and forgiveness for their own people, and we know it. We know it. Most of us can't stand each other. Most of us sit back on our high horse and we create ways to hate each other. You see, It don't have to be nothing big at all. I've said this many times before. Some people can just look at you doing a video, or look at you across town, or look at you across the grocery store, or just see you driving past in a car. Some of our people look at you just like that. They ain't got to have no words with you, but they can conjure up a reason in their minds to hate you. But yet this man who ruins your life, oh, you love him. No, he didn't just forgive him. He said, I love you. What the hell is it about this man that you love? I really wish someone could explain that to me. What is it about him that you love? Is it the blue eyes? Is that what did it? Is that what did it? Was it the smile? When I look in that man's face, I see something very sinister. I don't see a person who is even deserving. He even said it himself. He said, I don't deserve this. He knows he don't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? But in the minds of so-called black people who have been beat down and tore down from 400 years of slavery, in their minds, if they had their way, they would dig Massa up out of the ground and call forth life and breath back into his body and flesh back up on his bones and sinews, like Ezekiel 37, will these bones live? They would call Massa forth and give him life again and say, Massa, I forgive you. Massa, I'm so sorry for whining too much and complaining too much. Maybe you wouldn't have died of a heart attack, Massa, if I would just have been a bit better slave. Okay, that's enough of this video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this piece. It just kind of struck me, struck my nerves a little bit, because I see so much contention among us as a people, but yet you got people who can literally ruin your life. But you have nothing but love and forgiveness for them. I pray that our people would wake up out of La La Land, because the curse of generational curses has befallen us so bad to where we think this stuff right here is normal. Well, guess what? It is not. And with that, I will say shalom, family. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.